As Chandrayaan 3 nears D-Day, the landing day, excitement is of course palpable across India, and we're going to take now the next few moments to just understand, of course, the surface of the moon. Of course, we've been talking about why is the moon important, our mission, but let's take a moment, viewers, through our scientists who join us today, Mr. Suresh Naik and also Dr. R.C. Kapoor. I'm just going to put out some images now on our screens of firstly the surface of the moon that was shown by Chandrayaan 3. This is a video that has been put out by ISRO. They've seen the moon as viewed by Chandrayaan 3 during the spacecraft's lunar orbit insertion. This is a video that came out, remember, just a few days ago. And here you can see very clearly the surface of the moon. You see, of course, the craters. We see, of course, some dark patches where no light reaches. We also see this grey surface of the moon that we've sort of grown up watching. Let me also just now rope in, if I can, Mr. Suresh Naik, if I can rope you in. So I'm just putting out a video, like I said, of the surface of the moon, and I'm just going to keep playing the ones that ISRO has released in the background. But if you can just begin by explaining to our viewers, sir, what really is so special about the surface of the moon?
Moon has got a very unique topography in the sense that it's big craters which occupy a lot of area on the southern moon. There the sunlight hardly reaches. For example, if I can show you this, this is the perpendicular axis, and the moon has got a tilt like this, and you can see the south pole is here, and if the sun is there it's very difficult to reach the sunlight there, whereas these areas, they do get sunlight. As there are craters, also there are many peaks on the moon, and interestingly, these peaks mostly throughout its time they get sunlight. And also there are mountains on the moon. Actually their name is Malapert Mountain. It is about 5 kilometers altitude, and that also gets mostly all the time sunlight. Okay. So yeah, these are the things. And then there are big huge basins, the plain type of land also are there. Now the advantage I am coming to of this topography from our scientific point of view is when you have these peaks who get all the day sunlight, as well as the mountains, there tomorrow, if a human establishment is generated or obtained, then we can have our power generating equipments there, so that we can get continuous power from the sun and we can get electricity from that. So that is a big advantage. And on the other hand, the big craters which are there, they contain lot of ice. Okay. Water in the form of ice. So you have sunlight and also electricity generation potential, and on the other hand water. These two are very important. And from water you can generate hydrogen, which will serve as a fuel for two reasons. One is a fuel for the rockets to come back to Earth, and another one is launching rockets from moon to Mars and other planets, because moon's gravity is 1/6 that of Earth, and you'll do a lot of saving in the fuel if you launch a rocket from the moon. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, so these are the advantages of the topography of the moon, and these are the unique advantages. That's why South Pole has become a coveted target for all the countries now which are spacefaring, like America, China, Russia, and India, of course. and that is why.
In fact, Mr. Nayak, as we're speaking, I've also put out an image that was taken by NASA of the south pole of the moon, where they, their mineralogy equipment actually did find some traces of water, but no country, Mr. R.C. Kapoor, has managed to, of course, land in this part of the moon. Why is it? Why has it been so difficult? Because we're talking decades ago that we made the first landing on the moon, but it's taken a very long time, and several nations have tried. What really happens, or what essentially goes wrong as far as the south pole of the moon is concerned? And like I said, I've put out an image for our viewers as well to just see what the topography of the moon is like.
See, most of the lunar missions have been so far in the equatorial region or thereabout, and that was sort of much easier. And of course, they have been on this side of the moon. On the far side, China has gone, and their equipment has been working fairly well, and they have had also sample return missions. India's sort of foray into this mission has its roots in 1999. When in a meeting in Indian Academy of Sciences, it was discussed that it was proposed that India should have a lunar mission. So a study paper was circulated by ISRO, and then eventually in 2008, Chandrayaan 1 was sent to the moon, and the great story that moon impact probe detected these signals of presence of water on the surface of the moon while just before it crashed.
Yes, and I'm putting out that image, what Dr. R.C. Kapoor is referring to, viewers. This is what he's talking about. This is an image that was taken by Chandrayaan 1 through its moon mineralogy mapper, and the blue parts, they've said, equal to water absorption strength on the infrared reflections. If you can just explain, Dr. R.C. Kapoor, how exactly is it that the equipment that we send out there, how is it able to pick up traces of, say, water on the surface, or the ability to, perhaps have some water in the craters? How is it that they pick that up? Because it's one thing to look at it from a distance and, assume or assess that, okay, there could be water. And of course, there's another thing when you actually land something on the moon, and then that can confirm all of these hypotheses.
See, the detection is through spectroscopy, because water vapor or presence of water, it absorbs certain wavelengths, and that's how the signal is sort of, for us, that's the signal. So that was one thing. That was there was a chase instrument mounted on Mars, a moon impact probe in 2008, Chandrayaan 1 time, and that's what detected those signals. So in the matter of Chandrayaan 2 or Chandrayaan 3, the lander had all those kind of equipments that were there to study the surface, the interior, and the atmosphere of the moon. So here, Chandrayaan 3, as we are preparing for the next 3 days later for its landing, it is also equipped with some very important equipments for the purpose of knowing the seismicity of the moon and knowing the composition of the surface matter, and of course that very thin atmosphere that exists around the moon, and then on top of it there is an ionosphere also, which is a wonderful finding in the recent years, and all of this is going to be sort of detected. And as we prepare for next few days for the descent, and ISRO has slightly revised the time, and obviously I think because the final orbit that has been obtained, in view of that, the trajectory has been slightly revised and for the future power descent.
Yes. Okay. Let me bring back Dr. Nayak into the conversation. Dr. Nayak, we've also put out a photograph of, as you said, that there are both craters and also slightly mountainous regions on the moon. And I've put out a photograph of some of the major craters and some of the major mountainous regions. If you can just, just give our viewers a bit of a background as to which ones, in fact, are the largest. We're looking at, several of these craters and mountainous regions on the moon. So if you can just explain to our viewers which ones are perhaps the largest, what can really be seen, is there anything that can possibly be seen from the Earth as well through a naked eye, or how exactly did the moon develop this sort of a topography?
Yes, actually, in this picture, the craters which you look at, which are in the equatorial region and slightly northern region, these are the places near that earlier moon missions had targeted their destination. And America, Russia, and China, they had landed their probes there. Even America had landed their astronauts in that near that area. Shackleton crater, for example, is very well known, and that is a place of interest for many scientists. And there are what you call mares. Mares really in Latin word means sea, but it does not refer to water bodies here in the context of moon. Actually, it refers to, again, the basins like things. And there are many mares on the moon which have been already named differently. And it is identified now for any mission when it lands on the moon that actually, you can say that near this mare or near this mountain or near this crater, many of these have been named, and that is very interesting. And we are actually, our Chandrayaan 3 is going to land near the South Pole, and you can say 69 degrees or so. And now that particular area has been already surveyed and finalized, because that 4 kilometers by 2.5 kilometers area is rather safe for landing. Now, while landing, the lander on the moon, what is important is it should not land on a mountainous thing or a hilly thing or inside the crater. And we need to have plain area. And from that point of view, we have identified that particular area. And in that, we have identified two specific spots. And these spots are very safe, but even then, when our Chandrayaan 3 approaches near the moon, let us say about 10 meter to 100 meter, then it can still change that spot if it comes across some hurdles there. Okay, so then for changing from one destination to another destination, ISRO has taken care to provide extra fuel in the lander.
Okay.
And also more electrical energy. And one good thing I wanted to share with the viewers, that our propulsion module, which was considered to designed to have only 3 months of life, now it so happens that some fuel was provided for extra problems which might be encountered, like mid-course correction, etc. And it was not necessary. So whatever margin was given in the fuel, that is all intact. And we have something like 100 kg of fuel inside the propulsion module. And now that is going to increase the life of the propulsion module from 3 to 6 months to maybe a couple of years or more even. So that is a very interesting thing.
And Dr. R.C. Kapoor, we've also put out an image, sir, of the south polar region of the moon, which is what Chandrayaan 3 is also targeting the landing at. We've known that there are far greater craters, in fact, in the southern region compared to the northern region, and that's perhaps been one of the major challenges that several countries have faced as far as landing is concerned. But why exactly do you think, in fact, why do you think has been able to really have a successful landing as far as this region is concerned?
See, until now, the equatorial region had been preferred, and people did not really think that South Polar region needs to be sort of the target of future missions. But one thing that has changed is the discovery of the presence of water in whatever form, whether hydroxyl radicals and hydrogen and water in solid form. So that has immediately made moon much more interesting. And because there is a greater possibility of finding water for proper usage in future missions, the southern hemisphere and particularly areas near the South Pole have been considered very, very promising. So that is one reason why now India aim to go there. Because on one hand we have had in our lab the finding of presence of water on the moon. So next we have intended to make our sort of exploration in this area even on much more solid ground. So this is for first time a nation is headed towards the southern parts of the moon, and I was expecting that with Luna 25 and Chandrayaan 3 will be sort of landing there one after the other, and then they will be giving a new kind of findings. But now we have had the bad news that Luna 25 couldn't make it, but Chandrayaan 3, as ISRO has time and again emphasized that quite a lot of care has been taken. So we very much hope that we are going to get good news and wonderful news on 23rd evening.
Absolutely. And I leave the last word with Mr. Suresh Naik. Mr. Naik, just a little bit of more education for us is people who don't understand the scientific aspects of why the moon is important. We're just going to put out a video related to that as well on our screens. But I'd just like to understand from you, sir, in just a couple of minutes, if you can just help our viewers understand what exactly is the role that is being played by the moon as far as the functioning of the Earth is concerned.
In this context, I will explain first the impact of moon on Earth. You see, there are different criteria, aspects in this regard. One is, it is very well known and observable, is the tides are caused by moon's gravity. Many people wonder why sun's gravity does not cause these tides. So here I would like to answer that the distance between the sun and the earth will be far away during that time, and that's why moon has got more dominance as regards its gravity is concerned and the cause of tides. So there are two high tides and two low tides. They happen every day, and that is because of the gravitation of moon. And because of the gravitation of the moon, what they call as the tide bulges are formed, these two tide bulges, and which part of the earth is in that tide bulge, they get the high tide, and in between that, the part of the earth, they get low tides. So there is one thing which is really observable. Second thing is the birds use moon for the navigation. The migrant birds, for them, moon's position is very helpful to decide their course of flight. And also, of course, they take the help of some stars for this. And this night migration becomes possible. And third thing is, many birds, they prefer the breeding season depending upon the moon, full moon and so on. These are very well known and established phenomena. And then, as I said, moon, which is our natural satellite of Earth, there is formed by becoming a part of it was when it was in the molten stage. The Earth was in the molten stage.
Yes.
Part of it separated, and that became moon. So Earth and moon, their properties will be very similar. But on Earth, because of the human habitation, we have changed a lot of characteristics, and whereas the moon is still a sort of a virgin land. And when you make discoveries and research on the moon, for example, when you try to find out what is the origin of the moon, because on the south side there are many rocks which are as old as the moon's formation. And if you can make use of that and identify the moon's origin, then we can say that more or less the same time is Earth's origin,
Okay.
right? And like that, there are many such characteristics we can find out how, the atmosphere started blowing away, because the atmosphere is formed on moon, but because of its low gravity it cannot hold on to the atmosphere. That's why there is no atmosphere like Earth has, and only very thin atmosphere near the moon. That's all is there. So moon has been a very attractive our satellite to study from the scientific criteria,
Yes.
as well as earlier said that it is an intermediate stop for us for further exploration of universe.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.